Is that what she told you she saw happen? Or what was relayed to her as to what happened?
So her bedroom was right next to the door. So she heard it.
Okay, but did she see what happened? Court does call the case of the people versus Ryan Johnson.
Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Morgan Barroso on behalf of the people.
Conversation on behalf of Mr. Johnson.
All right.
Before we begin, I would ask for a sequester order, please.
All right. Witnesses are hereby ordered sequestered. The officer in charge may remain.
Thank you. My only other officer is out in the hallway, Your Honor.
All right. Very good. All right. Is this your first witness?
Yes, that's Mr. Alan Duva.
All right. Could we have him sworn?
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Go ahead and have a seat. State and spell your first and last name for the record.
Alan Duva, ALAN, D as in David, U, V as in Victor, A.
Go ahead. You may proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Duva. Thank you so much for sticking around. I appreciate you being patient with us. Okay. Would it benefit you to have headphones?
It would. Okay. We'll get you some. Okay. Does that help, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Duva, I just said thank you for sticking around and being patient with us. I appreciate it. Can you tell me your address where you live? And is that in Washtenaw County? I'm going to direct your attention to February 7th of this year, okay? Early in the morning or really, really early in the morning, did something happen that made somebody call the police?
Yes. Can
you tell me a little bit about that, please?
There was a knock at the door and, I answered it. And, him, Lex, boyfriend or whatever, and someone else was at the door. And I recognized him, so I opened the door and they both came in and went directly into the room that she was staying in.
So I'm going to ask you some clarifying questions, okay? Who is Kim Bullock?
She's the daughter of my girlfriend.
And was she living at that house with you or just temporarily staying with there or something else?
She was living there.
Okay. And do you know, were you expecting anybody at that time? Do you know, was Kim expecting anybody at that time?
I guess so, because she had the door locked. I didn't know that. She had it locked.
So when you say you guess so, what do you mean?
I think she knew that they might come over.
But when you say it was locked, did she not want them to come over?
I suppose so.
Okay. So you answered the door. Did you invite them in?
Like I said, I unlocked the door. And they just came in.
They just came in. What do you mean by that?
I didn't say, come in or anything like this. They just rushed in the door.
Rushed in the door. Did they touch you at all when they rushed in the door?
Not really.
Okay. And I think you said they went into the bedroom. Whose bedroom was that?
Kim's.
Okay. And was Kim in there?
Yes.
Was anybody else in there with Kim? Okay. And what happened when they went in the bedroom? What did you do?
All of a sudden, she said, they're trying to take Javier. And I watched above the door, the front door is here, and the bedroom door is, right in the corner there.
Okay,
So I just walked to the doorway there and met up with, Mr. Clay.
okay,
He got up into my face and I took it, pushed him back.
okay. And do you happen to know what Kim's boyfriend at the time was doing?
He was trying to get
Okay. And when you say he was trying to get his son, what do you mean?
He was, he was trying to take, Javier and, somewhere along the lines, he said they got a gun. And in that period is when I pushed, Mr. Clay back.
Okay,
And after that, my bedroom, the, police over.
so tell me a little bit about that last thing you just said. You said, next thing you know, the police are standing over you talking. Was there a time in between? The police were the police on scene when?
No,
Okay,
I was told that, like, 15 years.
so something happened and you don't know what happened? Okay. Do you happen to know if you had any injuries when you realized police were on scene sometime later?
Yes. I found out that I'd been hit in the head with a gun. And, hit the floor.
And when you say you'd been hit in the head with a gun, where on your head did you get hit?
About the center.
Okay. Were there any marks that anybody could see?
Yeah. Well, there's something taken out.
Okay. Do you happen to know, or would you recognize today if one of the men who entered the house was in the courtroom? Okay. And so, do you know anything that happened between when you were standing in the room with Mr. Clay and Kim's boyfriend and when the police woke up? Or when you woke up and the police were there? Or do you not remember? But you don't remember what happened? Okay. One moment, Your Honor.
Mhm.
I might have asked you a question in a confusing way, and I just want to be really clear about it. Do you see Kim's boyfriend in the courtroom today? Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on a sec. Cross-examination?
Just briefly. Is the residence on Julie Street, is that it's a home or an apartment?
It's a mobile home.
Oh, it's a mobile home. Do you own that or rent that? Oh. Okay, you do? Okay, thank you. And you spoke about the door being locked. You remember that testimony? Okay. You don't know. Well, actually, what time did this incident occur?
I think it was around 3:30.
Would that be in the morning? In the morning? Okay. Usual practice to lock your door at night?
This is,
Okay, all right. Okay. You don't know for sure if Miss Bullock locked you don't really know why Miss Bullock wanted that door locked, do you? Sir, at the time of this incident, were you on any medications that might have affected your memory? Okay. And sir, you mentioned that you were in your bedroom for like 15 minutes after this incident. Is that correct?
The way I was told
Okay.
is that I was, yeah, I hit the floor and I was on the floor.
Okay.
I woke up around 15 minutes.
Okay. And when you woke up, who was around you? I mean,
There were a couple of police officers.
okay. And did you see any guns that evening or that morning? Did you witness any altercation between these men and Miss Bullock that evening? You did. If I could have a moment, Your Honor. Just a couple more questions, sir. When these men entered your mobile home, did you, as they were entering, did you tell them they can't come in? I have nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any redirect?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, sir. You may step down. Your next witness,
Deputy DeAndre Burton.
or be sworn.
You take a seat, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thanks, sir.
First name is DeAndre D-E-A-N-D-R-E. Last name Burton.
Great. You may inquire.
Thank you. Deputy Burton, is it okay is that an okay way to, okay. Can you tell me what you do for a living?
I work for Washington County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I'm a deputy sheriff. I work for the Food Services.
And how long have you been employed there?
Going on 2 years.
Were you working on February 7th of 2024?
Yes, I was.
And what shift were you working?
I was working midnight shift.
Were you in a marked patrol car?
Yes, I was.
Were you in uniform?
Yes, I was.
On that shift, were you dispatched to a 9904 Julie Drive in Ypsilanti Township, Michigan in Washtenaw County?
Yes, I was dispatched to lot 221.
Thank you. And can you tell me what the nature of that dispatch was?
It was the first as a kid.
Okay. Did you arrive on scene?
Yes.
And who was present when you arrived?
I believe the victim, the victim, was Bullock, and, her stepdad.
Do you happen to recall his name?
His name is Alan. And it was a third party, Robin.
Robin? Okay. As far as Kimberly, how did she appear to you?
She was kind of, like, crying. She's very emotional. Right, very talkative because of the state she was in. Very, it was kind of everywhere.
Okay. And did Kimberly articulate to you that she knew Orion Johnson?
Yes.
How did she know him?
Jeff, this is a question, seriously.
Your Honor, I believe that this is an exception to the rule against hearsay under 768.27C. We have had testimony from Mr. Duva previously that there was a domestic relationship between Kimberly and Orion Johnson.
Well,
But if Your Honor would
you
like
say
to,
Ryan Johnson? I don't.
if the name did not come out previously, then we can
It
hold your
didn't.
ruling in abeyance until I lay the proper foundation through Deputy Burton.
Well, this is getting to be a bit of a stretch because the first witness couldn't identify who was there, just said Kim's boyfriend.
Mhm.
But there was no connection made that was Mr. Johnson.
Correct, and we will get there. If you would like me to put up my officer in charge who can make the identification now, I can do that.
Well,
I object to some questions. There is absolutely no connection between the the boyfriend of Kimberly Bullock. That was laid by the first witness, and, I would object to any kind of information coming in, even the first witness couldn't identify the defendant.
Your Honor, he did have a head injury for which he was unconscious for a period of time.
Okay, I understand that, but I don't have anything. I mean,
Your Honor, if you would like me to put on my officer in charge who can make an
however you want to do
identification.
it, but I don't,
Okay.
not gonna happen this way,
Okay.
so.
Fine with that. Your Honor, Honor, I do believe that this is a situation where the necessary information establishing identity would also come out through Deputy Burton's testimony. And so holding your ruling on the objection until that information comes out through the testimony, I think would be appropriate in this situation.
Response to that, I mean, this seems like this seems like an exceedingly backwards way of doing this, but.
I would absolutely be opposed to that, Your Honor. Foundation has not been laid of any kind of domestic, foundation has not been laid of any kind of relationship, nor even was the defendant there.
Well, and my question is, was this a domestic? I mean, I see it's charged, but what do I have as proof that it's domestic, that it's gonna come in through that?
Your Honor, the information is that it's the father of her child and they were in a relationship for a number of years.
I don't have the father of the child. I have somebody's boyfriend
Correct.
coming to take Javier.
Who is, and that's the testimony that would come out through the testimony of Deputy Burton.
Which testimony?
What I would plan to be asking him, I just asked him the question of how Kimberly knows Ryan Johnson. And that was the objection we got.
I'm gonna let you go ahead. I'm highly skeptical. I mean, I understand the reason behind the rule, but there's gotta be something more there, and I have some ambivalence as to identity coming in through the hearsay.
If I may also.
Yeah.
Besides the hearsay speculation at this point, that question is speculative because the foundation hasn't been properly laid, how he knows how the officer or the deputy on the stand knows that relationship.
Your Honor, can I recall this witness and put Officer Morrison on the stand first? I think that would clear things up.
However, anybody wants to do it. That's hey. So you may step down. At this point, I'll sustain defense objection, but subject to further testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I will call Detective Heather Morrison.
All right, go forward and be sworn.
You solemnly swear and affirm the testimony about giving the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. State, third person, testimony for the record, please.
Main choir.
Thanks for being here, Detective. Can you tell me what you do for a living? And how long have you been employed there? I'd like to direct your attention to February 7th of 2024. Were you working that day? And when you say you're on call, what does that mean?
We work from home and they call us and an incident occurs that means a detective's response.
Did you happen to get a call that day? Can you tell me what the nature of that call was?
Home invasion kidnapping.
And what was your response to that call?
So I left my residence and made 9904 Julie Drive, Ypsilanti Township.
And who did you interact with when you arrived at 9904 Julie Drive?
Kimberly Bullock.
Okay. And when you arrived there, I'm assuming you underwent or you carried out some sort of investigation?
Yes.
Without going into any statements that were made by Ms. Bullock, can you tell me how you carried out that investigation on February 7th?
So when I initially arrived, I saw that there was a broken hanger, a child's clothing hanger in the driveway. I went through the house and took several photographs. One of being a pair of broken, eyeglasses that ended up belonging to Mr. Allen. And several photographs throughout the house, and to include Javier's bedroom, where there was dresser drawers missing.
And was there a child on scene? Did you was there an arrest made as a result of this investigation that day?
Yes, there was.
And who was the individual who was arrested?
Mr. Ryan Johnson.
And when you say Mr. Ryan Johnson, do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, it is.
Would you please briefly identify something he is wearing and where he's sitting?
The defense table, and he's wearing a green jumpsuit.
And, Your Honor, please let the record reflect that the witness has made an in-court identification of the defendant.
Judge, record shall so reflect without objection.
Did you have any interview with Ryan Johnson?
Yes, sir.
During that interview, did he make any statements about being present at 9904 Julie Drive on the evening of February 7th?
Yes, he did.
Can you tell me what he said?
He said that he went there and then he took his son.
His son, when you say his son, what do you mean?
He took Javier Johnson.
And who was the mother of his child? And how do you know that?
They're both on the birth certificate.
Okay. Your Honor, it's a,
Which part is hearsay?
They're both on the birth certificate.
did you personally observe the birth certificate?
I did. I got it from CPS.
I'll overrule it. Go ahead.
Would you give me one moment, Your Honor? Have any interactions with Mr. Alan Duva on scene when you arrived at Julie Drive? Okay. Can you tell me, did you determine whether or not Ryan Johnson was eligible to carry a gun?
He is not,
And how do you know that?
from his criminal history.
And what about his criminal history makes him ineligible to carry a gun?
He's got several qualifying felonies on his, including burglary.
Your Honor, I would ask the court to take judicial notice of a home invasion second conviction out of the 22nd Circuit Court from February 25th, 2009.
Your Honor, I would object to this on a question. We haven't even got to the part that all we have before this court is there was no guns.
Did what?
And there, Mr. Duva testified he did not see any guns, so we don't even have any guns that were visible.
No, I understand that. I mean, there's certain pieces missing, but I mean, I can certainly take notice of that if, to the extent it will later become relevant, but I'll take the judicial notice. Go ahead.
Lastly, when Ryan Johnson was apprehended, do you happen to recall what he was wearing? Okay. No further questions for this witness at this time, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon. You stated that during your investigation, basically you took pictures, you surveyed the scene, correct? Did you find any scenes of forcible entry such as a broken door, window? Yeah, all right. And you interviewed my client, correct? When did that take place?
That morning, after he was transported from the Victory and here to the Lafayette County Sheriff's Office Detective Bureau.
And I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything additional?
Not at this time, Your Honor. I would just like to recall Deputy DeAndre Burton.
All right, you may step down. Thank you. I would remind you, you're still under oath.
Deputy Burton, I believe that you said that when you arrived on scene, you interacted with a Miss Kimberly Bullock. And I believe you said that Miss Bullock articulated that she knew a Ryan Johnson. How did Miss Bullock know Ryan Johnson?
I'm going to object again, Your Honor. I'm not, I don't think that foundation has been laid through the detective in order to go down this road, Your Honor. I don't think that any identification has been made that this was Kimberly Bullock's boyfriend. All we have is that he was allegedly, he stated he was there. So I would object to this as hearsay.
Your Honor, I think that we have now established the necessary relationship under 76827C, that there is a domestic violence relationship and that it is Ryan Johnson. I believe that as far as establishing that Ryan Johnson was the one in the home, he admitted he was in the home, and any additional statements about Ryan Johnson being the one who was one of the individuals who perpetrated this will
Well,
come out
did he
through
admit he was
Deputy
in the
Kirk,
home or that he took his son?
that he was in the home, that he went to Julie Drive and took his son.
Okay, that's different than him being in the home.
I heard he went to Julie Drive.
Right.
Got his son, that's.
All right. I'm going to allow it at least for this point, and I'll give a final ruling once I hear everything. Because yeah, I'm having some issues with the establishment of the predicate under that statute site, but go ahead.
How did Kimberly Bullock know Ryan Johnson?
She said, he's her child father.
And how do you know that?
I asked her about the incident that just occurred. She stated that two males walked inside the house, forced their way inside the house, knocked her stepfather down, and entered her bedroom where she was with Robin Logan. And she stated that she saw her child father, and she saw another male that she never seen before, both large in stature.
And when you say her child's father, was she referring to Ryan Johnson?
Yeah. I asked who her child's father was. I went outside to my patrol vehicle and received a picture from his SOS photograph running system, and I showed her, and she stated that was her child's father.
When she said that was her child's father?
I went and looked up his Michigan license.
Okay.
Took a photo of him, showed her the picture.
Okay. And did that play in or contribute at all to the apprehension of the defendant? Do you know?
Yes.
How did that?
So once we verified who he was, they started to track her cell phone because he took it from her during the incident.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there, and I want to just go through slowly what her account of what happened. So where we left off was that Ryan Johnson went into the bedroom with an unknown man where Kimberly Bullock was. From there, what happened? From there, what happened?
Sustained, but go ahead.
What happened after Ryan Johnson and the unknown man were in the bedroom with Kimberly Bullock?
So once they got into the bedroom, Kimberly was pushed to the ground, and Ryan Johnson took their son out of her hands, and unknown male was standing outside, both had handguns. And she said that Ryan went outside and put the child in the car, he came back inside, took her phone. And
So I'm going to stop you really quick. When you say they both had handguns,
yes,
did she describe them?
she said they were black handguns.
Did she say if they were in their hand, in a pocket, or something else?
So she stated that once Ryan got inside the bedroom, he put the handgun inside his hoodie. So he didn't have it in his hand when he pushed her.
Okay. And as far as when he pushed her, did she go to the ground? And what happened after she was on the ground?
I believe that the unknown male told her not to move. And that's when Ryan got outside.
And did Kimberly say anything about what happened between the two men and her stepfather?
I believe she stated that the unknown male, second guy that she didn't know, pointed a gun at him, fired on her.
Did she say how they entered the house?
She said she heard a knock at the door and he approached the door because it was.
When you say he, who do you mean?
Alan.
Okay.
He approached the door and he opened it slightly. And as he was opening the door slightly, the door was forced open and the two subjects entered.
Hold it.
And when you say,
So, hold it. Is that who's? Am I dealing with two levels of hearsay or just one?
I think there's two levels of hearsay here.
my understanding, Your Honor, is that Kimberly is saying that this is what she observed happen.
Is that what she told you she saw happen? Or what was relayed to her as to what happened?
So her bedroom was right next to the door. So she heard it.
Okay, but did she see what happened based upon your conversation with her?
So based on my conversation, she stated that she saw two males walk inside the house after she heard the knock when her stepfather was walking through the door.
Okay, but there's been more testimony than that. That somehow or another, there was testimony about how the door opened and then forcing in. Did she say she saw that?
Just to double check that everything that.
Would reading your own report refresh your recollection? Your Honor, may I approach with his own report?
Your Honor, I would ask, Madam Prosecutor, to tell me which page she's showing up here.
Page 17 of 50.
Thank you. I'm sorry, 17 of,
Page 17 of 50. It carries over onto 18.
see that when you're done.
Hmm?
Can I see that before you ask me a question?
Yes. Are you done?
Yes.
Did that refresh your recollection? Is there anything you'd like to clarify?
Actually, I do have an objection, Your Honor. I do not believe a foundation has been laid as far as how Kimberly Bullock would have seen this.
Well, okay, but I don't know what. Go ahead, Ms. Burrows.
Is there anything you'd like to clarify based off of refreshing your recollection?
Refreshing my recollection, Kimberly stated that she saw two males enter her house after she heard a knock at the door.
And did she say whether they had any invitation or permission to be in the residence?
Objection, leading question.
Sustained.
Did she give any impression of what those men were wearing?
Stated that her father Ryan had on a red sweatsuit. She said it was Ralph Lauren.
One moment, Your Honor. Did Kimberly Bullock say how the two men got in the door?
Objection, asked and answered, Your Honor.
Well, we were trying to get an answer to that. Overruled. I'll hear it, but
So when she said she heard a slight knock at the door, she said her stepfather Alan walked over to the door and opened it slightly. She said the door was forced open. And she saw two men enter her house.
And do you happen to know, is the person who you had Kimberly Bullock identify and confirmed through the SOS photo, is he in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you briefly describe something he's wearing and where he's sitting?
I stood to the left of me.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect that he's made an in-court identification of the defendant.
that objection record shall so reflect.
Lastly, were there any photos taken on the night of February 7th when you responded to the scene?
I'm not sure. I did not take them personally.
Did you happen to see any injuries to either Kimberly or Alan Duva?
Is there any injury? Well, yes, Alan, I believe he had injuries to his head.
And when you say an injury to his head, what do you mean?
It was a large knot. Couldn't tell you exactly where it was, but I can't remember exactly. But he was treated for his injuries. The ambulance arrived on the scene. I believe they took him to the hospital.
Your Honor, may I have one moment?
Yes,
Your Honor, may I approach?
you may.
Please let the record reflect that I have approached the witness with people proposed exhibits 1 and 2. Are those a fair and accurate, or looking first at people's proposed exhibit 1, is that a fair and accurate representation of the large knot that you observed on Mr. Duva's head on February 7th of 2024?
Yes.
Your Honor, the people move to admit people's proposed exhibit 1.
No objection for preliminary examination purposes. Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Looking at people's proposed exhibit number 2, is that a fair and accurate representation of the large knot that you observed on Mr. Duva's head from a slightly different angle
Yes, it is.
on February 7th of 2024? The people move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 2.
No objection for examination purposes, Your Honor.
Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, please. When you arrived on site on February 7th, 2024, you had an opportunity to look at the scene, correct? The house? Yeah, briefly, okay. Did you observe any signs of forced entry? Okay. Moving on to Ms. Bullock. You did not observe any injuries on her?
No.
When you interviewed her, you testified that she was extremely upset.
She was emotional.
In fact, I think your words were all over the place. Okay. Did she look under the influence of any substance or alcohol?
Not that I understand.
Okay. Let's talk about the layout of the mobile home, okay? Just briefly, the back bedroom is located where in the mobile home relative to the front door?
I believe it's the south side. So, front door was on the east side.
Okay.
You walk in, going west, you have to turn left to get back there.
Okay, so Ms. Bullock told you, where did Ms. Bullock tell you where she was when she saw Mr. Duva?
Yes.
Where was she?
She was in the front bedroom,
Okay, and that again is where?
right next to the door.
Right next to the door, okay, and, okay. I have just a moment, Your Honor. I'm sorry. Did Ms. Bullock make any indication if the bedroom door was closed or open?
She said it'll go.
And that would be in your report, correct?
I'm not sure I have to.
Okay, could you review your report?
Yes.
Okay, actually, you need a copy of that, don't you? May I approach?
You may.
So you have an opportunity to review your report and your memory is refreshed?
Yes.
So let me ask the question. So in the report, it does not indicate if the door was open or closed to the bedroom. I have just one more moment. I have nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Sir, throughout the course of this entire investigation, were any weapons recovered? To your knowledge? Thank you. Let me step down. Any additional witnesses for the people?
None from the people, Your Honor.
None for defense, Your Honor.
Motion.
Your Honor, the people would move to bind over on counts 1 through 3 with 4 and 5 to follow. I do believe that we heard testimony today from Mr. Duba indicating that two men entered the home. While he did not identify the defendant, he did sustain a head injury and was unconscious for a period of time. He additionally heard testimony from Detective Morrison, who indicated that a suspect was apprehended in the situation, who admitted to being in the home and taking his son. That established a domestic violence relationship between the defendant and Ms. Bullock. She also noted that he was wearing a red polo sweatshirt when he was apprehended, which matched the description provided by Ms. Bullock. And we heard from Deputy Burton, who recounted Ms. Bullock's account of events, where she observes two men entering the home, forcing their way past her self-described stepfather, Alan Duba. It was indicated that they forced their way in, that they came into the room where she was located with another woman and her child, that they both possessed guns. The defendant had a gun, which she described as a black handgun, as well as the co-defendant had a gun that was also described as a black handgun. The defendant put the gun in his coat pocket or hoodie pocket, and then took the child. And then she was told not to move when the defendant had taken the child from her and walked outside with him. You also took judicial notice of a home invasion second conviction from the 22nd Circuit Court from 2009, establishing that he should not have been in possession of a firearm. At this time, we would request.
Your Honor, briefly, the standard is probable cause. Especially with count one, I do not believe that people have the burden of probable cause. We have two different, Mr. Alan Duva could not identify the person coming in. He did not state from the testimony that they forced her way in, and he did not tell them that they couldn't come in when they entered the mobile home. As far as the rest of the counts, I understand about the domestic violence statute, but I also understand that I believe that it has not been proven by probable cause standard that the relationship was established to the less necessary, and therefore I leave it to the court's discretion. But going back to count one, I do not believe the probable cause has been established for that count to be bound over, Your Honor. Thank you.
Your Honor, with regard to defense counsel's assertion that we did not meet our burden on count one, while there was no testimony that it was stated that the two individuals could not come in, what Mr. Duba did testify to was that he was not expecting anyone, and that he thought that Kimberly was concerned that someone would be coming because she locked the door. That was the testimony that was stated initially, and she was worried about it. So I do.
Yeah, but he opened the door. Right?
Correct, but he did not, based off of his testimony, he did not invite them in the residence. He did not say, come in. He said he opened the door slightly and they pushed their way in.
What?
I don't think that he testified that the length of the door was open. He said he opened the door. And he testified it was at 3:30 in the morning, and that he did not tell them they couldn't come in when he opened the door.
Well, he said he recognized one of them.
No, I don't think he made any identification of any of them.
Well, whether or not, well, okay, all right. Well, I understand the ID. Okay, anything else?
Nothing from the people you're.
Of course, going to take a brief recess. I'll come back and give you my decision momentarily. Recalls case of people, State of Michigan versus Ryan Johnson.
Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Morgan Burrows, on behalf of the people.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Mark, just on behalf of Mr. Brian John.
anything further from either side before the court gives its decision?
Nothing from the people you're on.
Nothing from defense, Your Honor. I believe the court listened carefully to all the testimony.
I did, painfully so. With reference to the felony charges, which is all that I'm here to address, in regard to the home invasion. One thing that is like the statute is that a home invasion can occur where they entered without permission to the dwelling. While Mr. Duva did not specifically indicate that he told them to stay out, he recognized the individual they came in. One interpretation of that is that he may have invited them in. The other interpretation of that, but he is clear that he did not invite them in. He did not give them consent to come into the premises. That issue, and I'll be honest with you, I think that it's a weak case, but I think that issue is something that the court has to, with regard to that particular element of home invasion, that creates a factual issue as it regards that offense that properly should go before the jury as to how these individuals entered the premises. And then that there's at least some evidence that there was indeed an assault that occurred upon Mr. Duva while these individuals were in the premises. There is also at least evidence while Mr. Duva cannot, he can say it was Kim's boyfriend, but the court does know that there was no in-court identification of it being Mr. Johnson. However, there is testimony which the court would find as credible that it was Mr. Johnson, and for the purposes of preliminary examination, because the child was taken and Mr. Johnson was in possession of the child. So as to how we got into the premises, whether it was by consent, otherwise let in, again, from the court standpoint, that's a factual issue. So I'm going to bind the defendant over on count 1. As to counts 2 and 3, the court's going to decline to bind the defendant over on counts 2 and 3. The reason that the court's going to decline to bind over on counts 2 and 3 is because all I have is a testimony of an officer talking about Kimberly saying that these individuals had guns. I don't have a weapon. When they got to the defendant at some point, there were no weapons. I asked the deputy whether or not anything in this, any weapons were, and no. So I don't think that there's enough there for the court to bind over these charges. So the court's going to decline to bind over on 2 and 3. Therefore, the defendant will be bound over on count 1 with 4 and 5 following. Rachel,
Yes, Your Honor.
as to the arraignment.
Yes, Your Honor. We did a formal reading. Acknowledge it, and my client stands here and ask the court to bind him over. Thank you.
That amendment. Brendan Hemingway from reading standing mute. I'm presuming that's what you meant. Court will enter not guilty plea as to the 3 counts that are remaining. Pretrial will be set for
June 4th at 1:30 before Judge Hunky.
June 4th, 2024. 1:30.